Real Estate Radio. Larry Shakman, a top producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, connecting you with top performing agents for 2% commission. Each week, we bring you exclusive interviews with industry experts, covering everything from staging to negotiation strategies to home inspection issues and everything in between. Whether you're selling your home, a first-time home buyer, or a seasoned investor, we've got you covered. Let's make your real estate dreams a reality in this fast-moving and ever-changing real estate market. This program is funded in whole or in part by Trusted Agent USA. Illinois license number 475-145-795. Now, here's Larry.
Saturday, January 20th, another just beautiful day in Chicago.
You know,
if you're a polar bear,
I'm just going to say welcome to the real estate therapist couch, and I'm going to ignore the weather. I'm moving on.
Exactly. So we have an awesome show today. I want to welcome everybody to the Real Estate Radio Show podcast. My name's Larry Shakman. I'm a broker, your local real estate therapist, if you will.
And I'm Dylan Kramer, and I'm a mortgage lender with Benchmark Mortgage, NMLS number 224916 for the regulators listening. And Larry, why don't you introduce our special guest, and we'll learn a little bit about him.
Yeah, we have a really special guest today. Dain Laverty is joining us. He's the managing partner and co-owner at Property Pals USA out of Chicago. Dain, how you doing?
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Great.
Long-time listener, second-time guest.
Yeah, awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about regarding Property Pals and what your mission is, how it got started, and maybe even talk about a few properties you got out there that people may be interested in. Is that
sure?
Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
You sent me one yesterday in Dalton.
Yeah, we have them everywhere. Dalton, Fox Lake, Lombard, you name it.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah, it's my partner Sam Abundez and myself started the business about 3 years ago. Before this, I was working corporate. He was working construction, and we started this business because, I think we were just tired of clocking in, and so we knew that real estate cut big checks, and then found out that about this little segment in wholesaling, and then really kind of found out how many people we can help with different creative strategies and things like that. And so now
we're excited to spend the next hour learning about it. It's good stuff.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to get into, some of the misconceptions about wholesaling and how it actually helps people out there that are in situations that, a realtor or broker like me may not be able to do in the amount of time they have. Mm-hmm. So we'll get into that in a minute. I want to do some house cleaning real quick. So remember, real estate, wholesaling, whatever it is you're doing out there, it's a full contact sport. So you guys can text us or call us this morning at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Text us or call in with any real estate questions at all. Also, we're streaming live on WCPT 820 on Facebook and at the Real Estate Radio Show podcast group. Go there, join, and follow us for all of our lives and all of our podcasts and any live events we do. So, and of course, we're on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. So we have a lot to talk about today. We had a great show last Wednesday, and actually Dain may know these guys, Ivan and Jackie Mirandabaum. Do you know them?
I'm familiar with the names.
Okay, so they have a roofing company in Chicago that they've had for about 25 years, but they're also real estate developers, primarily in the multifamily space. Okay. So
we spent a lot of time with them on Wednesday, and for everybody listening, the thing that they do really, really well, which I think is the thing that we learned, the big takeaway we learned Wednesday, and that podcast is available again if you go to the Facebook group that Larry mentioned. Mm-hmm. We spent a better part of an hour doing a deep dive. The thing that they've done really well that I was most impressed with is the following. They've built an actual business, right? When we talked with Ivan and Jackie, they shared with us, not only do they acquire properties, but then they do the work necessary to make them very attractive rentals to a very specific niche, right? They're focused on 4 zip codes, but if you're
right
focused
around
on
Midway,
right, but if you're focused on a suburb or you're focused on an area of town or whatever the case is, they're very, very narrow in the properties they acquire, and then they've built very specific checklists for how they manage those properties and run them on an ongoing basis so that they have great relationships with their tenants built on expectations. So if you ask yourself out there and you're listening today, well, I would love to invest in real estate, but how do you manage the tenants? How do you turn around and manage the property? They have really, that podcast is worth a listen. It was worth the hour on Wednesday to figure out how to build a system so that you get consistent and regular results, right?
Yeah, Jackie actually. So, if you go to CAR, right, Chicago Association of Realtors, or you go to Midway, Moore, whatever, and you use their lease, right? It's like a 3-page lease.
Yeah.
Jackie's lease is 32 pages long. And it literally, it covers every bit of maintenance. And her whole thing is, she wants those renters that she brings in to treat that unit as their home. This is your home now. So
expectation setting.
Exactly.
She literally does a 1 hour.
Dylan, fix your camera so we can see.
She does a 1 hour
face.
expectation meeting with she does a 1 hour expectation meeting with the clients and up front in order to get them into the property. Like, you can't take possession of the property unless you do your 1 hour meeting with her.
Yeah.
Like college, going to college, you go and do your orientation, and then she brings you into the unit.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Great show. But so we have a lot to talk about with Property Pals, because Property Pals, give us the history again, how you guys started. Go ahead, Dylan.
I was going to say, I'm interested to learn, Dain, as we visited on Wednesday with our last guest, the thing that we like to do, and we like to do it with you this morning, is learn a little bit about what does your company do and who are you helping? Because at the end of the day, one of the things that we do every week when we're on the radio is we talk about how do we help people, right? And so the question is, who do you help and how do you help them?
Yeah, so I think it's we have a really interesting business just because we have a marketplace essentially. So we help buyers and sellers.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
Yeah, so from the seller side, sellers want to sell their homes for all different sorts of reasons, and so some of them have inherited the home and they obviously want to get rid of it. Some of them have taxes and they're going to lose the home and they want to get rid of it. Some of them are in foreclosure. Some of them are out of state. All of this has one common theme, and that's usually stress. And so a lot of these people, again, it's just one more thing. An asset is not anything that you could take lightly. It impacts your taxes, impacts a bunch of things in life. And so we have, created a system to help sellers out and help them disposition these properties in any specific way. And I think kind of what makes us unique is that we have 5 different ways to acquire a property. And so with those 5 different ways, we can help people who typically wouldn't be helped. And Larry, you talked on, maybe clients that you didn't have a solution for earlier. We have a solution for these people. And a lot of this is done through creative. We work with agents nonstop. And I think it's also another myth buster that would be addressed is working with agents. I think a lot of them see wholesalers and they see them by these fly by night bank robbers.
The thing I read, Dain, that I think is very interesting, and it sounds like overall, like let me paint the picture for people who are not familiar with your business, right? When you work with Larry, you're going to turn around and you're going to maximize the value of your property, right? You're in a situation where you've cleaned it up and you've done the maintenance and you are trying to get last top dollar. And at the end of the day, you don't care whether if you put the house on the market today, whether you sell in March or in May or in July, you want to get top dollar. When you work with a company like yours, you're willing largely to trade a few dollars in terms of maximum value for stress relief, right? So you've come into a situation like you had mentioned, where they inherit a property. Well, inherited property comes with all sorts of problems, right? And lots of folks have turned around and they want to keep mom and dad in the house till they pass, but they've been in that house for 30 or 35 years. And, you know, the Sun Times from 1988 is on top of a stack, right? And now the idea of cleaning those stacks of newspapers out and painting and cleaning and getting everything ready and getting it on them, and then finding somebody like Larry, and maybe if this all started today, we might be able to get this all done by July or August or fall. Right. And so now I have stress because I have projects and I have all this stuff. We can just call your company and basically say, well, we know we're not going to get the dollar amount for the sale that we would have if we did all this stuff with Larry.
Right.
But we can get a fair dollar amount for what the work is from your company and solve our problem, which is the stress of having to deal with mom's house.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it on the head. That's exactly what we do. Like we really kind of look at ourselves as solution providers, you know, at the end of the day. So people, and this is all while managing a household, right? Like people are going through all these other things while managing their own households. So we're able to come in here and they do take a little bit of a haircut on the equity piece, but it is a bottom line, you know, it's not.
But let me ask you this: Are you really taking a haircut on the equity piece, or because that equity doesn't really exist in the description I used, and I said, hey, you could work with Larry. You really have to invest time and money to get the property ready for a regular agent like Larry, right? And so you really, that equity is built by that time and money invested in moving out the newspapers, fresh coat of paint. Maybe there's deferred, right? There's stuff you have to do to rebuild that equity. You can come in and say, this is our equity kind of as is, and convert that equity to cash quickly. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally we can close in 30 days. We take care of closing costs. One of the really important things about our business is we are BBB accredited. We are all licensed. So, you know, a lot of people look at what we do and I think they're like, well, why wouldn't somebody just put it on the market? And there are a million reasons people don't put it on the market.
Absolutely.
I think agents, you know, hear it all the day is, I don't want to put it on the market right now. And so the people look at us as alternative solution. Right. And that's kind of where we
I think also with wholesaling, there's like a whole different reason the speed of the transaction needs to be accelerated if somebody's wholesaling typically, because, you know, they may be wholesaling because they're 3 months behind in their mortgage and they don't want to go into foreclosure. They may have a short sale situation or some of the other situations that you mentioned where, you know, I can deal with some of that as a broker, but the time frame which it's going to take to help them dispose of that property, if you will, is going to be extended where they need a quick answer. And I think that's where you guys come in. You provide these solutions. So you said there's 5 ways that you provide these solutions. What are those specifically?
So the first one is we have they're labeled by program. So we have a cash out program, which is essentially it's cash, quick close. And we sign the contract, you show up at the table, we pay out what we agreed to pay you out, and then we're done. The second one is it's called the mortgage saver protection program. And essentially what that is the sub 2. And so we take the property over subject to the existing mortgage. And we're able to pay
that's been all the rage lately. Did you guys recently add that program, or is that something you've done for a while? So
it's something we've done for a while. And, I mean, we have helped so many people with that program. It's incredible. I mean, and not only that, I mean, we literally just bought a property this past week from a homeowner. He's going through a divorce. The house is upside down. They need to sell the house to get out of the divorce, but you know, on each side, they both want their things. So we were able to come up with something where essentially we took the property subject to and then paid them out some of the equity that would have been in the house, right? You know, should they not be underwater.
So they're walking away with some money.
They're walking away with some money, and you know, in other words, they wouldn't be able to.
And that's the other misconception when you wholesale a property. If you do this right, they are going to walk away with some money.
Absolutely.
You're not like stealing a property out from under anybody. You are helping them dispose of this property in the time frame they need to do it without getting into more financial difficulties.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the need for speed. That's kind of what we're doing here.
Yes.
Is really helping people get out of these situations quickly.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time they walk away with the money.
Right.
I think, the only time they didn't, I think when we first started doing this, we were calling properties from the vacant demo list in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. That's fun.
Yeah, shout out. It's about 35,000 properties deep. But
geez.
Yeah.
That's a rough list.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, talk to the mayor about those programs.
Yeah.
I think we're going to move on to something else now. Dane, tell us about the other 3 types of ways you guys acquire.
Or 4 types. That you said cash out, right?
So cash out and the subject to.
And subject to. Okay.
So the other one's seller finance, right? So if they don't owe anything on the property, we can seller finance it from them. We are licensed, so we can also help them list it on the market. And then the last one is called a novation. And so novation is, I think it's pretty trendy right now. Essentially what it is for all the agents out there, it's a net listing, but you're not an agent, you're an investor. So you're removed one piece in that you contract for the property and then you hand it off to an agent to list. And people are like, well, why wouldn't people just list it themselves? If I had to ask that question to all the people that we do these types of deal structures with, the reasons don't stop. Oh, I don't like agents, so I don't want to do it. I don't want to be bothered. And the amount of people will just walk away and say, hey, listen, I need a set amount. If I have that set amount, whatever you do with it is up to you.
You're giving them that set amount up front. Yep. Then you're giving it to an agent, and whatever you get, they get over that. Yep. How does that?
Well, yeah. So generally what we'll do is we'll go in there and we'll, list it on the MLS, and then we'll put ask about repairs in the private remarks.
Okay.
Right.
And so in those private remarks, they see ask for repairs. They'll say, oh, well, what are you guys doing? Oh, we'll, do the carpet. We'll do the kitchen cabinetry. We'll do this. We'll do that. So there's little things that we can do to help people purchase a property with, say, a VA loan,
right,
FHA loan, with a house that may not be ready, because we already have the network, the marketplace.
Yeah. That it's funny because we do a lot of work when you mention the VA loan for veterans, and when they're subject to repairs, one of the things that lenders have a lot of latitude with, but not all lenders deploy that latitude, is the ability to make the loan subject to some of these repairs getting done post-closing.
Yeah.
And so you can put that money in escrow, you can make a plan to get that stuff done and get the veteran into the house. And the question for the VA loan program, and we had another great example of it this last week. I won't go too far down that rabbit hole of a tangent, but the thing is that you've got to come at, as a lender, you want to come at borrowers and borrower situations, especially in the VA space, as to how do we do this loan and get the veteran into the house, rather than, hey, we got to cross every T and dot every I and make sure that the house is perfect. And so there's a lot of latitude in that VA home loan program to help the veteran.
Right. And there's a lot of, cases that deals are falling apart because these can't be done, because they can't, the seller can't afford to do them. The buyer doesn't want to buy them with these situation, with these repairs being needed. So we fill this small little niche of where, we can come in and make a repair so that it passes a final inspection. So I mean, it's pretty interesting, just because on the investment side, like, there's all these little opportunities, I think, where a lot of deals fall through the cracks, and that's where we come in.
Yeah. And that's great. And look, the thing is that you say a lot of little deals, but I'm always of the business philosophy that if you keep showing up every day and hit singles and doubles, eventually a home run opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But nobody ever went broke cashing checks, Larry.
So let me ask you something. We covered all 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and novation is really interesting. I hadn't heard that before. And so I'm assuming that when you do that, you have realtors on staff at Property Pals. You're going to list it with one of those realtors.
So we don't. We are.
No.
Yeah.
There's the plot twist.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun,
Look,
dun.
what am I here for?
So
That's very good hosting, Larry. I like what you're doing.
We don't have. We are all realtors at Property Pals. We don't do the realty services in-house.
And the reason for that
is I don't know. I just think it's more of an ethical conflict.
Yeah, I hear you.
Than anything.
Because you're doing the wholesale end.
We're doing the wholesale end.
And then you're going to list it.
Right. So we need to have some.
So if you need a retail listing agent type guy, I know a guy, just so you know.
I heard there was a few guys in this office, but I was waiting for him to show
up. So that's all super interesting stuff. I'm curious about something. So of the homes that you wholesale, how many of those do you assign out?
So last year, I think we did 82 properties. Of those 82, we probably assigned maybe 72 of them.
Okay.
So a fair amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other, let's say 12 properties, is that where the novation comes in, or would you?
We flipped. So we either flipped or bought those.
Okay. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the novations, we did about, I don't know, maybe a dozen novations last year. And so there's a lot of paperwork. And I think this is also a tool, again, for all the realtors out there. I think this is a tool for them that they can bring to homeowners. Because the beautiful thing, when we show up for appointments, we say, hey, listen, there's 5 ways that we can work with you. Let's take a walk through the house and see which one's going to fit you best.
See, I love that. I mean, the analogy is right. The thing I like about this is the analogy that I'm going to go to is we often use the cliche in the business, whether it's your side of the business, Larry, or the mortgage side of the business, that if you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Yeah.
And Dain, what you're telling me here, correct me if I'm wrong, is you can go in and walk the property and find the problem and be like, well, we got a hammer and we got a saw and we got a screwdriver, whatever, but our toolkit is full of other things we can do.
Right.
So we're not just here to sell you this solution. We're here to find out what your problem is. And again, if you have a problem that is not a traditional real estate problem where you're just going to list it with Larry and you're going to get on your way,
stage it,
right,
clean it
that
up,
stuff.
list
Like we've got to turn around and do a much. We've got another issue, right? And it could be, and like you said, it could be that issue is the one we talked about earlier, where you are disposing of a property that was your parents and you've come in to inherit it. Well, that's a different solution than somebody who's behind on the mortgage, right?
Absolutely.
Currently, right? There's a different level of stress, but there's still stress.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny because the people that are in that situation, right? I mean, if they would just bring their own stress level down, right?
Yeah.
But you're going through a lot of emotional things. I mean, selling or buying a house is the most emotional purchase or sale you're ever going to make in your life.
So you mean you might be emotional and need a real estate therapist?
A real estate. Well, and you're on the couch here, Dylan.
Yeah, there you go.
But it is very emotional and people get really wrapped up in it. So like when you're dealing, like I was a huge REO broker for about 10 years. And I worked with one of your associates often, Tom Schrey. So, when you're dealing with distressed property owners, you're dealing with a high level of stress. And like by the time I was knocking on their door back in 2010, 12, whatever, they already stopped looking at all their mail. It was that had passed already. They already knew where they were at, what's happening. And I'm knocking on the door just to put them at ease a little bit and say, hey, no one's going to come and kick you out of your house. That's not how it works here. How do you handle that when you're working with a distressed property owner based on the obvious individual situation?
I think, at the end of the day, they got a million things going on. And so, and they're vulnerable too, right? I think that's like one of the most.
And they feel vulnerable.
Which I think is like one of the most challenging things. And so, we do a lot of training at Property Pals and make sure that the people that are talking about these different types of programs really understand them. And so I think that's something that when we go and consult with the seller and listen to their situation, we're able to say, okay, based on what you've shared with me, I think that this would probably be the best route. This is why, this is how it works, and then this is how long it takes. So, I mean, coming back to your guest last week, it's really about expectation setting.
Right.
So when you come in through the door, set those expectations, it makes a world of difference. And that's whether you're selling an emotionally distressed house or, raising children.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about, setting.
It's a lot easier selling a distressed house.
It's funny. I was having
I do that. I take that any day.
I was having a conversation at home this morning about setting expectations with my high school senior about where we're going for college. So again, I totally understand setting expectations.
Yeah.
Larry,
it's important.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We got to take a break.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. Before we do, I just want to thank our sponsors. So let's bring on, first of all, Trusted Agent USA, trustedagentusa.com. And if you're looking to work with the top agents in your area and still save a ton of money, not only on commissions, but on title as well. Title is a huge expense when you're selling your home. Go check out trustedagentusa.com. Also, I want to thank our other sponsors, which is, of course,
thank Benchmark Mortgage.
Yeah, well, Dylan is sitting here, so I have to thank him. And that is Benchmark Mortgage. I'm going to bring him up here in a second.
Well, for those of you watching on the podcast app, he's bringing that up on the screen. But the thing I tell everybody
look at
is,
that picture, Dylan, will you? That's
we
insane.
help everybody with clarity, transparency, and understanding what is going on with their mortgage and getting their financing to the table on time, on budget, with no surprises.
Yeah, Dylan will get you across the finish line, whether you're buying an investment property, an owner-occupied property, whatever. And our last sponsor, I want to thank At Home Title Services. So I'm not only a broker, but I'm also a title agent. So if you're a seller, for instance, and you're selling a $200,000 condo, your card rate on that title policy, that title insurance policy, is $1,950. If you want to save 50% on that and only pay $975, call me 630-921-0611. And if you're an agent in Illinois and want to find out how to become a registered title agent and add that to your menu of services that you offer the investors you work with, the homeowners you work with, then check out athometitleservices.com. They do virtual events pretty much every month. So having said that, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back with Dain Laverty of Property Pals USA.
Tune in to Real Estate Radio Saturdays at 9 a.m. hosted by the real estate therapist Larry Shakman, a top-producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com. Top-performing agents for 2% commission, saving you thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Real Estate Radio, the ultimate real estate radio experience. Get insider tips from experts throughout the real estate industry. Streaming live on Facebook at WCPT 820. Trusted Agent USA, Illinois, license number 475-145795. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio, sponsored in part by TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, saving you thousands. Now back to Larry, the real estate therapist.
All right, everybody, we are back, and today we are joined in studio by Dain Laverty, who is, of course, the managing partner and co-owner at Property Pals USA.
Correct.
And Property Pals USA is a company that helps distressed homeowners kind of maneuver their way through whatever difficulty they're going through now, whether that's wholesaling, novation, as you mentioned, cash out. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. And, like Dain said, it can be a really, people can have misconceptions about what you do and that, just like they do what I do. Right?
I think the interesting thing about what the space Dain is occupying, right, is, Larry, if somebody's not in a position to list a property that they either own or have come into ownership of recently, and there's a roadblock of some sort between where they're at with the existing property and just selling it through you, right? And whether that's deferred maintenance, whether that's repair work, whether that's the condition of the property is nowhere near kind of full price then you got to find an alternative solution.
Yeah.
Most people just see that as a roadblock and they don't do anything, right? And most people,
they freeze.
Right. They freeze, they get paralyzed. And what I hear from Dain, correct me if I'm wrong, Dain, is that you guys have the ability to come in and be like, that's not a roadblock. It's a fork in the road, and we have other forks you can take to solve your problem and get rid of this property. True?
Absolutely.
So riddle me this. Tell me a little bit. I'm sure you did a bunch of transactions last year. You said you did helped 80 some homeowners deal with their property situation. Tell me kind of your best story or your best result of how you've helped people, or just the craziest thing that happened, because I'm sure you've got some interesting things going on.
Right.
I don't want to hear about the nightmares, Larry. We're in the problem solving business.
No, but you got to know the nightmares to know how to deal with them.
We had a Mount Prospect nightmare last year. We're not going to talk about that.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. No. We. I guess where do I begin? We run into so many different situations. I've taken. We've shown up to appointments, and there was a really nice gentleman we were helping out in Bolingbrook. I go over to the house, take a look at everything, say, great. I found out he was one of the early construction managers at McDonald's.
Oh,
yeah. And so I say, okay, great. I'm gonna go grab a lockbox for the property. Do you need anything? And he asked me to get a McDonald's Coke with ice, which I thought was kind of funny. So go get it for him. Run back. When I come back, he's sitting outside in like a wheelchair that was in his garage, like swatting at himself. I'm thinking, I deal with
this is already taken a weirder turn than I thought it was going to. So let's see.
I'm a therapist, but I have no answers for you right now. And it was probably me out there swatting at myself.
Please tell me he had a shirt on.
So he does. He's fully he's fully clothed.
Thank God.
So and he's swatting, and I can't figure out what's going on. But we meet all different walks of life. So I go over there, and all of a sudden I see that what he's swatting at is there's these hornets stinging him, because I guess he had like hit over a hornet's nest. And so I say, hey, you got to get out of there. So I grab the wheelchair, and I'm like running him around his front yard in a wheelchair, like pushing him in this wheelchair.
My goodness.
Yeah. And I'm thinking the neighbors are probably looking at this. Like,
that was my first thought. What are the neighbors thinking?
They're looking
well, that's one way of getting
like,
rapport.
Poor John is getting like run around in his wheelchair. Should we call the cops?
Yeah.
Right. By this complete stranger.
Oh, my goodness.
And we ended up. I take him to the hospital because daughter came by, and she's like, "Thank you so much." I'm in my car again. We were able to help him out. But the first thing I thought, and I don't know if it was a bad thing. The first thing I thought was, how much liability am I exposed to right now?
No, I mean,
you know what? As a business owner, you always have to worry about that, right? And we all pay a fair buck for insurance in this world, and I get that.
I'm curious, what are the price points that you find yourself dealing with? Give me the range.
Yeah, so we're buying homes. Okay, so also just for context, the price we purchased them for versus what they're sold for, after repair values of these homes is quite different. So I'll answer that question from the after repair value standpoint. So we are buying and selling properties anywhere between the 150 to 350 range.
Okay. At an after repair value.
At an after repair value.
So generally speaking, when you come in and you solve these problems for the seller, there's a gap between what you pay for the price and what that after repaired value is going to be. So I'm not worried about that per se, right? That's where the value in what you do is, right? And Larry's talked about, hey, there are some misconceptions in the business, and I think that people should, if they have things that are going to prevent them from looking at max price solutions, for lack of a better phrase, with Larry, exploring options with you is absolutely reasonable. I completely believe in the business model. And now my question is, once you take possession of the property, what's next? You've talked about wholesaling. Are you putting that out with an agent? Do you have a list of buyers?
You probably have someone lined up already.
I mean, tell us a little bit about that. Like, you can't just be in the property acquisition business, right?
No,
I mean, there's not a lot of profit in that.
No. So I think it kind of brings us full circle to Larry's question opening up about, who are you guys helping? So we talked a lot about the sellers and how we help sellers. But we also help the buyers big time, right? So the buyers everybody wants a deal. And so when we acquire these properties, we have two different disposition methods. The first disposition method is through a platform that we have called Investor Lift. It's actually a great platform for people who are out there who do invest in real estate and want to find properties across the nation, punch in a zip code, and there's all sorts of people who are posting on this site. They have things like videos, virtual walkthroughs, inspections to make really comprehensive decisions. And then there are the people that we have worked with for the past 3 years, and they call us and we send them out a text message, and they now know, okay, Properties Pals has something new. They'll call us back, and then that's
same thing. So those are like the emails I'm getting, like the property in Dalton.
Yep.
How are you getting those emails, Larry? And I'm not.
Well, you're getting on the list now.
List.
You're going to get on it now, because
I see your laptop right there. You could just add me to the distribution list now, like from the email string we used to put the show together.
I'm curious about something, because so let's say somebody wants to get into investing. They've never invested before. They've never done a flip. They've never owned a rental property. Can an investor call you and say, hey, Dain, I want to get involved in investing.
Yep.
And I see you guys are always throwing properties out there. Do you have hard money lenders I can work with? Do you have, private money lenders you can work with that you could turn maybe new investors onto, or new investors that want to do joint deals with other people?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with a handful of hard money lenders. We do work with private lenders. From an investment perspective, we're soup to nuts. So we can source the property, we can set you up with the money, we can make recommendations for contractors.
Sure.
Because my experience with a contractor and your experience with a contractor may not be the same.
Yeah.
So again, I love the contractors that we work with. They're like the line chefs of the real estate industry.
Yeah.
Sure. So you get some really, really awesome ones, and you get some ones that just smoke cigarettes out by the trash can,
Exactly.
So they're both, but we can put money, work, labor, acquisition, and we don't do this enough, but we should be bookending these deals and also asking to represent the buyer on the sale.
Yeah, absolutely. What about DCSR loans? Do you? Yeah,
so we're actually in the process right now of working with a gentleman over at Millennium Bank on a DCSR loan. But yeah, we have a few contacts that have those types of products that we can reach out to, and I think Dylan would probably be the best person to talk to about that.
Well, we do have access to a DCSR product. That's and the nice thing about them is that we do them in-house, which is fantastic. Not every lender wants to take the liability, back to that point, of originating those loans, but we're doing them.
Yeah. So I think people are a little bit nervous about the market in specific areas those DCSRs are.
So the DCSR, like for instance, you have somebody with a 785 credit score that wants to finance not only the rehab, but the purchase of the property. Dylan, is that possible?
Well, the rehab loan's a different loan, right? So the renovation money is a different animal, largely. So the debt service coverage ratio is really a carrying product, and what I mean by that is, once you have the property stabilized, you have the rents, you know what your cash flow is going to be. Then there's just a grid, and it's kind of a straightforward loan program, right? You take the credit score, you take the down payment, and you take the coverage, literally the coverage ratio from the rents to what the payment will be. And there's a grid. So you're going to put 20% down, or you're going to put 35% down. You're going to have a 780 credit score. You're going to have it. And it's like, well, this is the rate and this is what we can do in terms of percentage. And it's just a simple grid. And so if you have a 3-unit property and it rents for $6,000 a month, to keep the numbers round, and the payment's $4,500, well, you're going to get a better rate at the same and a better loan to value than you would if the payment was $5,000 and the rents are $4,500 amongst those 3 units. And so there's just on one level, it's not that complicated, because if your credit score qualified and the property cash flows, and it doesn't have to cash flow, there are grids to how much, I'm using air quotes now for everybody watching on the radio. There are coverage ratios, and so it doesn't have to be 100%, and it could be better than 100%. It could be, so it just depends on what the numbers are, but it's a math grid that has basically 3 elements, right? Down payment, service coverage ratio, credit score.
Right.
And then this is what's available to you.
So I actually have a question about that. So
Yeah,
you have these 2 to 4 unit properties that you can either go out and get a DCSR product, or you can go get a conventional product. I know you mentioned the DCSR as a carrying product, but like, what is the real benefit there? Because if you have under market rents, then is the DCSR a valuable product?
The challenge is, I think if you have under market rents, you've got a separate challenge in terms of financing, and then you really want to look at your conventional option. Not to get too in the weeds on this, but the conventional option is going to be the most flexible because it's going to allow you to qualify from a debt to income ratio. But if you look at an FHA loan in that situation, those FHA multi-units not only need to qualify from a debt debt to income ratio standpoint, but additionally, those FHA loans have to be self-sufficient, meaning that when the appraiser comes in and says, okay, this property is going to rent, let's say it's a 2 unit and it's $1,500 a unit, so $3,000, can't have a payment be more than $3,000, even if the borrower is debt to income qualified. And the reason is that if they have to go to foreclosure, they want to rent it out at market rents and let the property be self-sufficient for whatever their holding period is. So it has to, it's the one product, this FHA 2 to 4 unit, that requires the borrower, or not only the borrower to qualify from a debt to income ratio process, but the property to qualify from a debt service process. So it's a double qualification. You have to do both. And we helped with a loan in the last couple of months where a lender had not identified that both had to qualify, and we're able to get the borrower in on a different product, but they were looking at FHA loan. And the thing my team does when we get involved in loans that other lenders have worked on is we want to turn around and we want to put the loan in our engine and gather up all that same data, pay stubs, bank statements, information on the property, rents in this situation. We're like, let's stick it all in and see if we can recreate the problem they're having over at lender A, because we know we're lender B and something's broken.
Got it.
And once I identify what that problem is, then we ask ourselves, is that a fixable problem? And in this situation, they had not done the double qualification, so that product was out. So
got it.
So the DCSR loan, at the end of the day, the property has to support the debt.
Right. The property
at the end of the day, that's what it is.
To a degree. And now the question is, does it support it at 75%? Does it support it at 100%, meaning the payment?
So what's the sweet spot?
There's no sweet spot, Larry. At the end of the day, the question is, what can does the property work for the borrower, right? At the end of the day,
I'm talking about for the loan, like when the lender sees, hey, this is going to support this property to this degree. This guy has an 800 credit score.
I think when you ask what's the sweet spot is like, are we going to get the loan? And at the end of the day, even with a minimum credit score and a 75% debt coverage ratio, like you'll get the loan, you get a much better, more affordable deal if it's at 1.25 debt service coverage ratio and you've got an 800 credit score, right? And you put 35% down instead of 20% down, or whatever the case is. So this is much. It's a very oddly. I think this is just me speculating. Again, getting into the weeds a little bit. We have a situation in the DSCR loan grid qualifying that is much like PMI. If you put 5% down on a house, it's exponentially more expensive than 10%, and putting 15% down is limited. But it's 5, 10, 15% credit score, single family versus multi-unit, and it's there's your spot, and you're going to get your PMI from a PMI company, and you're going to pay whatever that premium is, and it's just on the grid. Same sort of thing. The DSCR loans are, what's the payment, what's the cash flow on the rents at market rate, right, and what down payment are you eligible for based on your credit score. And that's it. It's just a grid.
Makes sense. Dain, I'm curious. I'm curious a lot today, but so when you're working with a private lender as opposed to a hard money lender, I'm assuming that the hard money lenders that you're working with, you're paying a little more for your money there than you are with a private lender.
Yeah.
What are you finding is that average?
Yeah. So this is actually a fun little space. Sam and I have been really fortunate in that we've set up a line of credit for the business. And we also work with private lenders. I prefer to work with private lenders. And the reason is we can structure the terms to how we want to be paid. So sure, we'll pay you 2 points, but we can pay you on the cash out. Whereas with the hard money, we got to come with whatever 10-15% down. There's all these junk fees, which is fine. So we've had a couple of properties where we've used the line, and let's say we're buying a property. We bought a property out in Riverwoods for I think like $250. Sold it for like $320, and didn't do anything to it. But we took it down with the line. I think the out-of-pocket expense was something around $38,000.
Okay.
And we're a very cash intensive business, so we didn't have $38,000 on hand at that time to do that.
Yeah.
And so we do what's called gator lending. And so this gator lending is this unique little concept where we can work with other private investors, and we can say, hey, listen, we need this $40,000.
We'll pay you 12% annualized.
Right. Exactly. And we can raise the money for the down payments that way. And because we built enough of a spread in, we can afford to pay out the hard money lender and the private money lender in this case. But I mean, we're always looking for new private money. I mean, we have an incredible amount of deals that I think we've gotten to the place now where we can start making other people money. So we're always looking for new private money, and trying to make that happen.
Well, it's very cliche, but you know what? You get to when you say that you can help make other people money, you can get everything you want out of your business if you help people
others
get what they want.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Zig Ziglar, right?
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to take a quick break before we come back and wrap it up with Dain Laverty at Property Pals USA.
Tune in to Real Estate Radio, Saturdays at 9 a.m., hosted by the real estate therapist Larry Shakman, a top-producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com. Top-performing agents for 2% commission, saving you thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Real Estate Radio, the ultimate real estate radio experience. Get insider tips from experts throughout the real estate industry. Streaming live on Facebook at WCPT 820. Trusted Agent USA, Illinois, license number 475-145-795. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio, sponsored in part by TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, saving you thousands. Now back to Larry, the real estate therapist.
All right, you guys, we are back. Thanks again for joining us on the Real Estate Radio Show podcast. Remember, we're streaming on Facebook at the Real Estate Radio Show podcast group, also at WCPT 820. You could also find us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever. So I'm curious, Dain, how do people get in touch with you? Let's say someone right now is, I almost said I'm curious again.
They have a wall. Right, they have a real estate situation with that wall.
They have a situation. They need to get out of it
with Larry.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, right? Whatever their circumstances, we have deferred maintenance. We're behind on the mortgage payments. We inherited mom's house.
Right.
I think Dain might be able to help me. How do they get in touch with you?
3 payments behind, whatever.
So they can go ahead and shoot us an email either at Dain, DAIN, or Samuel, SAMUEL, at Property Pals, which is plural, PALS, USA.com. Or you can give Sam a call directly, 847-302-9334.
And give that website one more time.
Yep. PropertyPalsUSA.com.
Okay, awesome. So there you go, guys. I mean, if you're in a situation where you really don't have the money to, clean up your house the way you'll need to list it to get that max, or the time,
right?
Or you're in a distressed situation with funds, or you've inherited a house you don't want to have to deal with, Dain could be your guy. And check him out over at Property Pals USA.
I think the inheritance thing, correct me if I'm wrong, is that an angle you guys see a lot, those folks with those come into properties?
Yeah, I mean, a fair amount. I mean, it's like I said, it's a mixed bag. We see a lot of inheritance. We see a lot of, see a handful of foreclosure. We see a lot of just people who are generally behind on something, or the house is, they rented it out and they're squatters. Squatters is a big one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Oh yeah, I know squatters well.
I mean, we only got 7 minutes left, so I don't want to go
Yeah.
down too far down the rabbit hole. But tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. The too long don't read version is cash for keys. People, we work with squatters all the time. They know the law. They just pop the squat. They do whatever they want. So the goal with them is just meet them at a level playing field, match their energy, offer them cash for keys, and generally they'll be cooperative. I think there's maybe one scenario that we couldn't get a squatter out, and I think they're still in that house today.
Yeah, and that could be a tough situation.
Yeah.
When I was doing REOs, one of the guys, the guy that ran all of my field operations, I had, at one time I had like 500 properties in my inventory, and you can imagine you get squatters.
Yeah.
And so I had a guy that would politely go over and ask people, what can we do to solve this situation? He was like 300 pounds with a beard down to here, 6'4". And,
you're not pushing them around.
We're not pushing them around, but we're asking them nicely, because at the end of the day, especially here in Illinois, it could be a long road to get a squatter out.
Yeah.
And it can cost you some money.
Yeah, no,
thousands of dollars.
For sure. I mean, I think you can solve again, that's an issue that's time versus money, right?
Well, I think that exactly. And I think that's the thing. Both of them are going to cost you money. One's going to take less time.
Right.
So, you can either do the eviction route and go through the courts, or you can, do a cash for key situation. Maybe it costs you a little bit more, but it's worth it.
Sure. But I think that translates into most of what you're doing, right? At the end of the day, if it's an inheritance, right, and you're out of town, or, so now you end up in a situation, you're like, well, I own, I live in Milwaukee, but I inherited mom's house in the south suburbs of Chicago. And do I have to run down there every day and manage contractors and paint and clean and get everything? Yeah. Or I could, and maybe I get money by July, or we could call you guys and we could be out of all of it by mid-February and dispersing the estate and moving on.
Yeah,
exactly.
We have covered a lot today. There's a lot to cover in real estate, right? If you guys are interested, oddly enough, I've written a book. It's called The Top 10s of Real Estate. It's 32 top 10 real estate lists that are proven to maximize your profit when you buy, sell, or invest. If you'd like to get that book for free, just text me at 630-921-0611, 630-921-0611. Just text book. And before we wrap it up, I want to Dylan, how do people get in touch with you when they want to get over the finish line?
Larry, the thing I want to actually put out for everybody is we can get you some information on these DSCR loans. If you're interested in learning more about these DSCR loans and whether they might be a fit for your real estate financing situation, text DSCR to 630-708-7088, and I will follow up with you there.
Awesome. And one more time, Dain, Property Pals, you can reach Dain at
847-302-9334. And that's actually going to take you to Samuel Abundez, my partner. He's the one that feels all that.
That's awesome. But you guys have a system, and that's really the most important thing. So we'll bring the conversation full circle.
Yeah.
Let's have a system to get stuff done. Look, we're in the helping people business, and that's real estate, and we're here for you.
Yeah. Listen, you guys, we appreciate you tuning in with us every Saturday on the Real Estate Radio Show podcast. We've had a great time talking to Dain, and of course, we're going to see you next Wednesday, where we're going to talk about new construction, some of the really hot markets for new constructions. Builder sentiment is up. Building permits are up. New building permits are up. So builders are starting to feel a little better about things. And so lots of things coming up. Dain, we look forward to having you back. This was awesome. We still got a ton of stuff we can talk about.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right, you guys, we're going to wrap it up, and have a great weekend. See you later.
Thanks for joining us on Real Estate Radio with your host, Larry Shakman, the real estate therapist and top producing broker. Now go to trustedagentUSA.com and save thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Illinois license number 475-145-795. Tune in next week for the ultimate real estate radio experience.